You never answered my question about Goldies. Yeah. Facebook user. Oh, someone who wishes to remain, undercover. Oh my God, look at the time. Look at the time, people. How did you let me just babble on like this when it's Tuesday, 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 the day that time forgot, and you're in the poetry break, the poetry break, the poetry break, the poetry, Uh-oh. I think that one went down behind the guitar cases. The other one's right over there where I can see it, so I won't step on it or anything. I better pick it up, though. I got to show some respect for the pyrotechnics. They've been with us for quite some time. Good evening, friends. As you can tell, we have some sunspots over here in this area. And where are those other ones? We got these right here. Those ones back. Those ones back here. This big long one here. I can't make my. I don't know where it's coming. It must be coming from a different window, even though there's only one window in this room. Let's check the sunshine quotient. Oh, yeah, people. Yeah, we have here on the West Coast, where virtually all these people are. Mary Pecca's in the house. Mary Pecca from Emeryville, California is in the house. Alice Davie is here. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. You got time to be hanging around in places like that? Don't you have homework to do? Don't you have patient files to write up and things like that? I'm just kidding. Don't leave. Don't leave. I need you here. I need you here. So here we are. It is the 9th day of August, 2022. I like to mention the date because here's what I did this week. One of you may have noticed. I started, oh yeah, that's right, Mary Pecca's in Spokane this week. That's right. She's in the Spokane house. What was I going to say? I was talking about, I started to upload the poetry breaks to YouTube this week. I think I've got like the first 6 of them up there. Now this computer that I'm talking to you on right now is starting to go a little bit wonky. I have a backup, but I haven't gotten that one up and going yet, so it's been kind of dicey. Yeah. Where's Lori Trout? Somebody get Lori Trout in here. Can somebody call her? She's down in Nashville now, so it's later there now. She might be in bed already. I mean, she's a grandmother. She's got to get her sleep. So that she can be hanging out with the grandbaby early tomorrow. She probably has the 2 a.m. feeding or something. I don't know what's going on. Who knows what's going on down there in Music City, USA. But here we are in the Poetry Break Central. Now, I got to tell you, the mailbag was a little light this week. Actually, I only heard from one poetry breaker. And that was Ms. Holly Tuttle. Yes. But Holly was not stingy, which is great. But Holly, I don't think I can read this. I don't think I'm going to read the last one. I'm not sure, it's a family show. I think she knows what I'm talking about. I think she even said something on this one like, this isn't a very good poem or something. Oh, it's not a very nice poem, is what she said. Not a very nice poem, and I would have to concur with that. But she sent me a couple other ones before that looked like she's been perusing around on the poetry website, the Poetry Magazine website. Yes, which is a great place to hang out and just look for random poems by people. If you haven't done it before, it can be fun. In bed at 9, yeah, well, if it wasn't Tuesday, I would be in bed I might still make it to bed by 9. That's right. So, let's see. Holly sent in a poem by Hilda Morley, who I've never heard of, and one by Lisel Mueller. Lisel Mueller. Yes. Wait. Sorry. Okay. Here's what Jim said. My poetry's broken, and so is my nose. Goes with the landscape, so I suppose. Sittin' by rights, by the windowsill. Come on, get it together, Bill. Right. Hilda Morley and Lisel Mueller. Yes. And then the Holly Tuttle one that I simply feel is not altogether appropriate. But we can talk about it, Holly. Hilda Morley wrote a poem called Song of the Terrible. Song of the Terrible. Finally, the fire went up when I'd ceased to worry it, given up entirely on it, rinsing my eyes of smoke tears, my fingers of soot smudges, and turned away completely. Finally then it took. And as the smoke cleared, my head and eyes clearing with it, my heart lightened, and I saw the dark red-colored wine-dark leaf I'd chosen to save for you, deep red as the heart is in its veining, and even shaped like a heart as well, the darkest red in the center, but winged in the form of a message. And I was reminded of the time when, sewing, I pricked my finger, and the crimson blood of my heart appeared on the skin's surface, and I thinking I should be making a song for you, like the kind they used for ballads when they said, love, I love you, and what was terrible was simple. Once more, huh? Patsy Kenny? Or should I say, Peppermint Patsy? Peppermint Patsy. You see what I did there? Hilda Morley wrote a poem called Song of the Terrible. It goes like this. Finally, the fire went up when I'd ceased to worry it, given up entirely on it, rinsing my eyes of smoke tears, my fingers of soot smudges, and turned away completely. Finally then it took, and as the smoke cleared, my head and eyes clearing with it, my heart lightened, and I saw the dark red-colored wine-dark leaf I'd chosen to save for you, deep red as the heart is in its veining, and even shaped like a heart as well, the darkest red in the center, but winged in the form of a message. And I was reminded of the time when, sewing, I pricked my finger, and the crimson blood of my heart appeared on the skin's surface, and I thinking I should be making a song for you, like the kind they used for ballads when they said, love, I love you, and what was terrible was simple. Hilda Morley, Song of the Terrible. Thanks for that, Holly. Now we have a poem by Lisel Mueller. It's called The Laughter of Women. The Laughter of Women by Lisel Mueller. The laughter of women sets fire to the halls of injustice, and the false evidence burns to a beautiful white lightness. It rattles the chambers of Congress and forces the windows wide open so the fatuous speeches can fly out. The laughter of women wipes the mist from the spectacles of the old. It infects them with a happy flu, and they laugh as if they were young again. Prisoners held in underground cells imagine that they see daylight when they remember the laughter of women. It runs across water that divides and reconciles two unfriendly shores like flares that signal the news to each other. What a language it is, the laughter of women, high-flying and subversive. Long before law and scripture, we heard the laughter. We understood freedom. I like that. Yeah. The Laughter of Women by Lisel Mueller. The laughter of women sets fire to the halls of injustice, and the false evidence burns to a beautiful white lightness. It rattles the chambers of Congress and forces the windows wide open so the fatuous speeches can fly out. The laughter of women wipes the mist from the spectacles of the old. It infects them with a happy flu, and they laugh as if they were young again. Prisoners held in underground cells imagine that they see daylight when they remember the laughter of women. It runs across water that divides and reconciles two unfriendly shores like flares that signal the news to each other. What a language it is, the laughter of women, high-flying and subversive. Long before law and scripture, we heard the laughter. We understood freedom. Yep. Lisel Mueller. Liselmueller. Lisel Mueller. Wow. Yeah, I like it. And Hilda Morley. Hilda Morley. Pretty much spelled like it is. Morley is Morley. Holly Tuttle. That's Tuttle. That's the mailbag, folks. Yeah, I know. You know what that means? That means we have to move directly to Oldmanhood. No, I'm not sure. I've only got 3 pages from Oldmanhood for you this week. I wrote more, but, at some points, some sort of, Lori Trout is in the house, as is Theo. Hello, Theo. Welcome, sir. Looks like we made it. Sorry. The Lori Trout commemorative shot. Until another shot glass arrives, it's just the one shot. Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge. Say no more. Lori. I think there was one of my hairs was hanging from the bottom of the... Yep. Tukwila Mockingbird, that's called. Oh my goodness. Oldmanhood. Remember, a journal. Not meant to be poetry, but what the heck. If you like it, then it's poetry. If you don't like it, then it's just a journal entry. We'll make that the rule. I'll put that at the beginning of the book if I ever publish it. Saying, if you like a certain page, then call it poetry. If you don't like a certain page, call it a notebook entry. Yeah. Not going to try for anything special on this painful morning. Walk cut short, legs barely working, humbled and stumbled, sticks on stones with no air between, almost falling, almost welcoming the thought of being on the ground, not in it. Still finding joy in the short distance, as the body complains, the soul swells and anticipates the relative ease of returning home. Home has a glow that's in the air, not just on the walls. It's a battery-powered paradise, fully rechargeable and quiet as a bird song. When you walk through it, you can't tell the difference. All our days should be powered that way. To keep the trees in perspective, you have to walk right up to them and say something nice. Compliment its bark. They love that. Don't talk about how well it carries those man-made scars. That's a surefire way to piss it off, and that won't end well for either of you. Better to ask a question about its height, its children. Where do its kind come from? Then sit back and be patient. You may have to pass that same tree for 10 years or more before you begin to hear its answer. By then you will have forgotten the question, which is kind of the point. See, these are the best 3 pages of the week. Just bear that in mind. I could have, read all of it. Okay, so now, this week has been, you have to understand, this week has been chock-a-block full of Gary Snyder for me. Because I got the collected Gary Snyder poems from Library of America last week, and I've just been all up in it. More about that soon. So this kind of addresses that. Hey, old friend, it's good to see you again. Your words are gathered now in one book. Not all the prose, but all the poetry, and we are gladdened. those of us who have heard your poems spread out across the last 45 years, to have them all gathered willingly in a single book. For us, this is a gathering of wisdom and story, enough to fill a large shed or a small cabin nestled in the pine forest with the birds and bears. If we have a fire tonight, your words will ring out across stream beds and blackberry thickets where we live here in Oldmanhood, together. Our spirits and your words intersecting again. Even though our walking sticks have become more tool than totem in our latter days, we know the way to the sacred rock overlooking where we perched back when it seemed far away from people and lists. And now we've grown old together. When we spoke and you said you'd always intended to end mountains and rivers without end with an ending, I was younger and therefore confused. 40 years was enough for that endless book. I'd wish that you would move closer to us if you weren't already living here. That's for Mr. Snyder. Yeah. And finally, well, how about that tequila sunset? It hasn't happened yet, but we all need our representative governments to ensure us we are free. I hear the freight train whistle coming up from the tracks along the shore, and am reassured. This is my pleasure point. Sounds that are out of date make the soundtrack of Oldmanhood, and our easy chairs get easier, our nights in thin cotton sweeter. Distances yet to travel in our own private mind gardens. There are songs about trains, poems, novels, memoirs, knights of the open road weaving their tapestries right where we can see them. Burning creosote-tainted wood in a freight yard, tin cans dangling from coat hangers, baked beans and sour red wine from a jug. Keep that creosote out your eyes. Don't be scratching them unless you got a place to wash it off. I come in with my bent wood cane under my arm till I know I'm among friends. I might fall to the ground, but I'll still whoop with my stick if you come within swinging distance. Brother, chow down and drink up. You got nothing we want, except for the songs and that old guitar. Sing about old manhood. Sing it good. There you go. That's old manhood. Look at this, it's 7:19. Yeah, we're already through the mailbag, through old manhood. What are we going to do? Where will we go from here? Well, let me tell you. Back to the man. Yes, sir. I figured since I've been reading nothing but this book and a couple of others all week this week, that this was the week that it would just be a Gary Snyder in 10th. Am I on a party line or something? I feel like there's something else bleeding in from the... It's the hand, ladies and gentlemen. The hand is... Ooh. Yummy. The hand. Yes. News from the front. Oh, unless I forget, don't forget about the mailbag is kind of... Theo from the Couth Buzzard is here. Alice Davie is here. Bill Woolham is here. Cindy Clark is here. Heidi Mueller and Bob Webb. Are they hanging out? Are they smoking cigarettes back there with Jim? Let's see. Holly is working tonight, not here now. Of course, I read the things she sent in, but that's okay. Kim will relay the message. Holly will watch later. Kim Nelson from the Lame Cat Ranch, holding down the fort all by herself. Goodness gracious. Jeff Steve is in the house. Hey, Jeff. How you doing? Katrina Knight, Lori Trout, Mary Pekka, Mark Kenny, Patsy Kenny. Oh, my goodness. Chris Chandler. Oh, my goodness. An illustrious special guest, out-of-town guest. Chris Chandler, welcome, sir. And Carrie B. Carrie Brakefield Kearns. Oh my goodness. And that's just to name a few. I know there's a lot of people hanging out by the dumpster with Jim because, Jim, he just tends to draw a crowd. What are you going to do? Chris, Chris, he's probably standing out there with Jim by the dumpster, so Chris is probably drawing a crowd too. So I'm just going to start at the beginning and work through it. Now, Gary Snyder's first book, Rip Rap, was published the year I was born. Okay? So there's that going on. Gary Snyder was born the same year as my dad. So there's that going on. Gary Snyder's book, Turtle Island, was one of the books that we had in the Literature of the Northwest class, January of 1978 at Whitworth College, taught by Professor Phil Eaton, who went on to be the president of SPU. I don't know why I always say that. He was my advisor in college and was just an excellent teacher. Right up there with Bill Woolham and people like that. Bill Woolham, you may not know, was my first professor at Whitworth College, my first teacher. He taught the Writing 1 class that I was in. Yes. I don't know if it was the same semester I was taking Intro to Lit. I might have been taking Intro to Lit with Phil that same quarter. I can't remember. Bill, do you? Probably not. Why would you? Why would you need to? Why would you want to? Okay, before Jim says anything else. Rick Lewis is in the house. Patsy Kenny, I can't believe you're here. There's Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. So I'm just going to start with a couple from Rip Rap and Cold Mountain Poems, published the year I was born. I covered that. Paiute Creek, this is called. See, the thing that about Gary Snyder is that I think he arrived fully formed. This book, Rip Rap, which was his first book of poems, even before Cold Mountain Poems had been added to it, these poems were fully formed. This guy knew what he was doing right from jump. Not all of us are gifted in quite that way. Paiute Creek. One granite ridge, a tree, would be enough, or even a rock, a small creek, a bark shred in a pool. Hill beyond hill, folded and twisted, tough trees crammed in thin stone fractures. A huge moon on it all is too much. The mind wanders. A million summers, night air still and the rocks warm. Sky over endless mountains, all the junk that goes with being human drops away. Hard rock wavers, even the heavy present seems to fail, this bubble of a heart. Words and books, like a small creek off a high ledge, gone in the dry air. A clear, attentive mind has no meaning but that which seems is truly seen. No one loves rock, yet here we are. Night chills, a flick in the moonlight, slips into juniper shadow. Back there unseen, cold, proud eyes of cougar or coyote watch me rise and go. Yeah. Paiute Creek, from his very first book. And this one was written at Paiute Creek, August 1955. It's called Milton by Firelight. O hell, what do mine eyes with grief behold? Working with an old single-jack miner who can sense the vein and cleavage in the very guts of rock, can blast granite, build switchbacks that last for years under the beat of snow, thaw mule hooves. What use, Milton? A silly story of our lost general parents, eaters of fruit. The Indian, the chainsaw boy, and a string of 6 mules came riding down to camp, hungry for tomatoes and green apples. Sleeping in saddle blankets under a bright night sky, Han River slantwise by morning, jays squall, coffee boils. In 10,000 years the Sierra will be dry and dead, home of the scorpion. ice-scratched slabs and bent trees. No paradise, no fall, only the weathered land, the wheeling sky, man with his Satan scouring the chaos of the mind. Oh, hell. Fire down, too dark to read, miles from a road, the bell mare clangs in the meadow that packed dirt for a fill-in, scrambling through loose rocks on an old trail, all of a summer's day. Milton by firelight. Yes, 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 yes. We're going to skip ahead now to his book Regarding Wave. Now, between Rip Rap and Cold Mountain Poems and Regarding Wave, there was The Backcountry and Earth Household. Earth Household, this book, which is a book of mixed notebook entries and prose pieces that was published originally, I'm not as prepared, in 1963, excuse me, Earth Household. This is this I think may have been the first book. No, it wasn't the first book. Published by New Directions Paper Books, Gary Snyder. Earth Household. This book, this very copy of the book, which I got in 1980, has traveled in my backpack on many, it's been to the top, it's been near the top of Hoodoo Peak and near the top of Oval Peak. I think it actually made it to the top of Oval Peak. I don't know if I had it with me when we climbed Hoodoo. There may be people who can check me out on this. Earth Household. It's a great book. It's a great standalone book, containing much that is poetry and much that is just great thought. Yes. Okay. Where was I going from here? Oh, I was going to go to Regarding Wave. No, that's not it. Come on, Bill, you can do this. Here we go. Nope, that's not it either. Come on, Bill, we can do this. Really, we can. Boom, 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 boom. It's the first poem in the book Regarding Wave. It's called Wave. Now you have to understand, a lot of these poems, these earlier poems, there was a cassette tape that I found, I think at Whitworth College in the library, like a 30-minute old muffled sounding tape of Gary Snyder reading from back in the 60s or early 70s, before Turtle Island came out. I knew that. And he was reading some of these poems, and the cadence that I use when I read Gary Snyder is something that I have heard him use, and that's why I do it. So, in case you were wondering. Wave. Grooving clamshell, streaked through marble, sweeping down ponderosa pine bark scale, rip-cut tree grain, sand dunes, lava flow. Wave, wife, woman, whiff man, veiled, vibrating, vague. Sawtooth ranges pulsing, veins on the back of the hand. Forked out, bird's foot, alluvium, wash. Great dunes rolling, each inch rippled, every grain a wave. Leaning against sand cornices till they blow away. Wind shake, stiff thorns of choyo, ocotillo. Sometimes I get stuck in thickets. Trembling, spreading, radiating wife, racing zebra. Catch me and fling me wide to the dancing grain of things of my mind. There you go. That's called Wave. Now, where do I want to go from here? I planned about this far ahead, but I wanted to read a couple of things from Turtle Island too, because this was the book. This was the book that just woke me up. And it started with the introductory note to Turtle Island. If you haven't read it, Turtle Island, the old, new name for the continent, based on many creation myths of the people who have been living here for millennia, and reapplied by some of them to North America in recent years. Also, an idea found worldwide of the earth, or cosmos even, sustained by a great turtle or serpent of eternity. A name, that we may see ourselves more accurately on this continent of watersheds and life communities, plant zones, physiographic provinces, culture areas, following natural boundaries. The USA and its states and counties are arbitrary and inaccurate impositions on what is really there. The poems speak of place and the energy pathways that sustain life. Each living being is a swirl in the flow, a formal turbulence, a song. The land, the planet itself, is also a living being at another pace. Anglos, black people, Chicanos, and others beached up on these shores all share such views at the deepest levels of their old cultural traditions, African, Asian, or European. Hark again to those roots, to see our ancient solidarity, and then to the work of being together on Turtle Island. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes I think that the pandemic kind of brought some of this home to some of us who maybe hadn't been already introduced to the concepts. So, there's a lot of different kinds of poems in Turtle Island, and there's some great ones. So I'm going to read a few of the classics, starting with I Went into the Maverick Bar, which is probably one of Snyder's most requested poems. I went into the Maverick Bar in Farmington, New Mexico, and drank double shots of bourbon backed with beer. My long hair was tucked up under a cap I'd left the earring in the car. 2 cowboys did horseplay by the pool tables. A waitress asked us, "Where are you from?" A country and western band began to play "We Don't Smoke Marijuana in Muskogee." And with the next song, a couple began to dance. They held each other like in high school dances in the 50s. I recalled when I worked in the woods and the bars of Madras, Oregon. That short-haired joy and roughness. America, your stupidity. I could almost love you again. We left onto the freeway shoulders, under the tough old stars, in the shadow of bluffs. I came back to myself, to the real work, to what is to be done. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. What was that? Wait a minute. What about it? Oh, here we go. This one is an interesting one. I remember reading this over and over and over in my dorm room, kind of going, yeah, I get that. Yeah. Do I get that? It's called No Matter, Never Mind. The father is the void. The wife, waves. Their child is matter. Matter makes it with his mother, and their child is life, a daughter. The daughter is the great mother, who, with her father, brother, matter, as her lover, gives birth to the mind. Now, when your eyes first pass over a poem like this, you're kind of like, no matter, never mind. No matter, never mind. That's the way you got to look at Snyder sometimes. No matter, never mind. You see what I'm saying? The father is the void. The wife, waves. Their child is matter. Matter makes it with his mother, and their child is life, a daughter. The daughter is the great mother, who, with her father, brother, matter, as her lover, gives birth to the mind. If you figure that out, give me a call, because I'd like to talk about it. Or write to me at poetrybreak22@gmail.com. Because, sometimes I think I get it, and sometimes I don't think I get it. So, there you go. This is a poem that I wrote a paper about in college. I was so into Gary Snyder. I was writing Gary Snyder poems for a year, I think. This is called The Call of the Wild. The heavy old man in his bed at night hears the coyotes singing in the back meadow. All the years he ranched and mined and logged, a Catholic, a native Californian, and the coyotes howl in his 80th year. He will call the government trapper who uses iron leg traps on coyotes tomorrow. My sons will lose this music they have just started to love. The ex-acid heads from the cities, converted to guru or swami, do penance with shiny, dopey eyes and quit eating meat. In the forests of North America, the land of coyote and eagle, they dream of India, of forever blissful, sexless highs, and sleep in oil-heated geodesic domes that were stuck like warts in the woods. And the coyote singing is shut away, for they fear the call of the wild. And they sold their virgin cedar trees, the tallest trees in miles, to a logger who told them trees are full of bugs. The government finally decided to wage the war all out. Defeat is un-American. And they took to the air, their women beside them in bouffant hairdos, putting nail polish on the gunship cannon buttons. And they never came down, for they found the ground is pro-communist and dirty, and the insects side with the Viet Cong. So they bomb and they bomb, day after day across the planet, blinding sparrows, breaking the eardrums of owls, splintering trunks of cherries, twining and looping deer intestines in the shaken, dusty rocks. All these Americans up in special cities in the sky, dumping poisons and explosives across Asia first and next North America. A war against Earth. When it's done, there'll be no place a coyote could hide. Envoy. I would like to say coyote is forever inside you, but it's not true. And now we're going to skip ahead. Well, actually, Turtle Island, the next book after Turtle Island was Axe Handles. Axe Handles came out in 1983, I believe. And that was the first time I saw Gary Snyder read live. I'd heard that cassette, but I'd never seen him in the flesh until Axe Handles came out. He was doing a book tour, and he came to a place in Spokane. I think it was like the Spokane Historical Society Museum or someplace. It felt like it was in Brown's Edition. Maybe Alan Hicks, if he ever sees this, can correct me. Or somebody else from Spokane. I think it was in Brown's Edition. I don't know. But I remember he had dark hair. He might have had some gray, but he would have been 52 in 1983. Oh, man. Axe Handles became my new constant companion for a lot of time. I guess I should read the title poems of this one too. Axe Handles. One afternoon the last week in April, showing Kai how to throw a hatchet, one half turn and it sticks in a stump. He recalls the hatchet head without a handle in the shop and go gets it and wants it for his own. A broken off axe handle behind the door is long enough for a hatchet. We cut it to length and take it with the hatchet head and the working hatchet to the woodblock. There I begin to shape the old handle with the hatchet, and the phrase first heard from Ezra Pound rings in my ears. When making an axe handle, the pattern is not far off. And I say this to Kai, look, we'll shape the handle by checking the handle of the axe we cut with. And he sees. And I hear it again. It's in Lu Ji's Wen Fu, 4th century A.D. essay on literature, in the preface. In making the handle of an axe by cutting wood with an axe, the model is indeed near at hand. My teacher, Shi Sang Shen, translated that and taught it years ago, and I see. Pound was an axe. Chen was an axe. I am an axe, and my son a handle, soon to be shaping again, model and tool, craft of culture. How we go on.
Yeah, baby.
It's the hand, ladies and gentlemen. The hand has returned. I'll see you later. Hayden Reese is here and says, Bill, read from Gary's Vegas years. No. I think you may have Mr. Snyder confused with Mr. Presley. Hayden. Get a clue, dude. If Snyder had Vegas years, I'm not aware of him. He was in Davis. Right. It's a long ways from Vegas. He's a nutsack, that guy. Okay. This is 4 from Lou. Now, Gary Snyder was a friend of Lou Welch, who disappeared. Yeah, they went to college together at Reed College along with Philip Whalen. And Lou Welch disappeared. He's presumed to have committed suicide, but he just walked away one day and was never seen again. This is called 4 from Lou. Lou Welch just turned up one day, as live as you and me. Damn, Lou, I said. You didn't shoot yourself after all. Yes, I did, he said. And even then I felt the tingling down my back. Yes, you did too, I said. I can feel it now. Yeah, he said. There's a basic fear between your world and mine. I don't know why. What I came to say was, teach the children about the cycles, the life cycles, all the other cycles. That's what it's all about, and it's all forgot. I'm going to read that one again. 4 from Lou. Starts with, I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, as live as you and me. Lou Welch just turned up one day, live as you and me. Damn, Lou, I said. You didn't shoot yourself after all. Yes, I did, he said. And even then I felt the tingling down my back. Yes, you did too, I said. I can feel it now. Yeah, he said. There's a basic fear between your world and mine. I don't know why. What I came to say was, teach the children about the cycles, the life cycles, all the other cycles. That's what it's all about. And it's all forgot. Gotta skip ahead here. We're getting late. And look at this. Look what he's doing. Oh, goodness. I wanted to read a couple from, here we go. From No Nature, which came out 20 years ago or so. It was the new and selected poems of Gary Snyder. So this is from the new section of the new and selected poems. I also wanted to say, in case you want to read, in case you wonder what else Gary Snyder has written besides poetry, he's written this. And I don't think this is a complete collection, but he's written this. Now that includes Earth Household that we mentioned earlier, a book called The Real Work, which is an amazing book, a book of interviews, Gary Snyder, his most recent prose book, which is called The Great Clod, which is subtitled Notes and Memoirs on Nature and History in East Asia. Back on the Fire, which is a book of essays. A Place in Space, which is subtitled Ethics, Aesthetics, and Watersheds. Maybe his most famous prose book, which is called The Practice of the Wild, which is an amazing, it's like a textbook. It's like and then there's this one, Distant Neighbors, which is the selected letters of Wendell Berry and Gary Snyder. Of course they're friends. Then there's this one here, the selected letters of Allen Ginsberg and Gary Snyder. Of course they were friends. Allen Ginsberg had a cabin at Kit Kit Dizzy up there in the Sierras. There's this book, which Gary Snyder did not write. It's it's kind of like a documentary about Gary Snyder that came out in the early 90s called Dimensions of a Life. It's a great collection of stuff. Then there's this one, which I think might be the best at kind of catalyzing his ideas around deep ecology and things like that. It's called The Etiquette of Freedom, Gary Snyder and Jim Harrison. Of course they knew each other. And the Practice of the Wild. This was actually a film that came out, and if you order this book, you get the film on a DVD in the back. And it's Jim Harrison talking to Gary Snyder. So I think you could probably imagine a guy like me probably, responded pretty quickly to the knowledge that this exists. But the cool thing is you can watch the movie, and it's a good movie, but the book is so much better. The book has so much in it that isn't in the film. Basically just two old guys talking to each other about what it's like to be alive and what it's been like to be alive. So, fairly hefty stack of stuff. He hasn't just been dinking around navel gazing and writing his little poems. No. He is a man of letters. That's what he's referred to these days, yes. Bridget Lacey. Hey, Bridget. Hayden. There's Hayden. Patsy. Here we go. Now, I may have read this one before, but I love some of these poems that were in No Nature. And I love pretty much everything since. After that came Danger on Peaks, which is just an amazing book. Amazing book. And then finally This Present Moment, which just came out a couple of years ago. And maybe the last poetry he publishes, though I don't want to say that for sure. This one is called Building. We started our house midway through the Cultural Revolution, the Vietnam War, Cambodia in our ears, tear gas in Berkeley. Boys in overalls with frightened eyes, long matted hair, ran from the police. We peeled trees, drilled boulders, dug sumps, took sweat baths together. That house finished, we went on, built a schoolhouse with 100 wheelbarrows, held seminars on California Paleo-Indians during lunch. We braised the Chou dynasty form of the character Mu on the blacksmithed brackets of the ceiling of the lodge, buried a 5-prong vajra between the school buildings while praying and offering tobacco. Though those buildings were destroyed by fire, a pale copy built by insurance. 10 years later, we gathered at the edge of a meadow. The Cultural Revolution is over. Hair is short. The industry calls the shots in the people's forests. Single mothers go back to college to become lawyers. Blowing the conch, shaking the staff rings, we opened work on a hall. 40 people, women carpenters, child labor, pounding nails, screw down the core-10 roofing and shape the beams with a planer. The building is done in 3 weeks. We fill it with flowers and friends and open it up. Now, in the year of the Persian Gulf, of lies and crimes in the government held up as virtues, this dance with matter goes on. Our buildings are solid to live, to teach, to sit, to know for sure the sound of a bell. This is history. This is outside of history. Buildings are built in the moment. They are constantly wet from the pool that renews all things, naked and gleaming. The moon moves through her 28 nights. Wet years and dry years pass. Sharp tools, good design. I'm going to read that one again. I'm sorry, but this is like a thesis, could be a thesis statement of the Gary Snyder aesthetic. Building. We started our house midway through the Cultural Revolution, the Vietnam War, Cambodia in our ears, tear gas in Berkeley. Boys in overalls with frightened eyes, long matted hair ran from the police. We peeled trees, drilled boulders, dug sumps, took sweat baths together. That house finished, we went on, built a schoolhouse with 100 wheelbarrows, held seminars on California Paleo-Indians during lunch. We braised the Chou dynasty form of the character Mu on the blacksmithed brackets of the ceiling of the lodge, buried a 5-prong vajra between the school buildings while praying and offering tobacco. Those buildings were destroyed by a fire, a pale copy rebuilt by insurance. 10 years later, we gathered at the edge of a meadow. The Cultural Revolution is over. Hair is short. The industry calls the shots in the people's forests. Single mothers go back to college to become lawyers. Blowing the conch, shaking the staff rings, we opened work on a hall. 40 people, women carpenters, child labor, pounding nails, screw down the core-10 roofing and shape the beams with a planer. The building is done in 3 weeks. We fill it with flowers and friends and open it up. Now, in the year of the Persian Gulf, of lies and crimes in the government held up as virtues, this dance with matter goes on. Our buildings are solid to live, to teach, to sit, to know for sure the sound of a bell. This is history. This is outside of history. Buildings are built in the moment. They are constantly wet from the pool that renews all things, naked and gleaming. The moon moves through her 28 nights. Wet years and dry years pass. Sharp tools, good design. There you go. I will stop there for tonight. Gotta tell you, this is an endless book, you know? It is. As soon as you'd finish it, you'd want to start it again. I'm telling you. It's all his poetry in one book. Now, he'll go ahead, he'll publish more poetry. He's 91, so I don't know if he's still writing, but I wouldn't be surprised. If you want to hear more about the book, if you scroll back on this page, on my page, a ways, you'll see a tribute to Gary Snyder. That was put on by the Library of America, which is a non-profit press that publishes books like this one on archival quality paper, hand-sewn bindings. It's just really a fine quality book. This is over 1,000 pages long, right? But it's done on these nice, thin archival quality pages. Now, Jim Harrison's collected poems is only 900 and some pages long, and it's a lovely volume. I don't want to detract anything from it, but you toss this in your book bag, it's like that. Gary, yeah, it's got more slap to it. You know what I'm saying? I bet you he insisted that it be small and compact. Of course, the font's a little smaller than maybe some geezers would like, but check it out. Check it out. It's available wherever you can buy books. And boy, I'll tell you, it's sure worth having. If you don't have an extensive Snyder collection, get this one. It's got all of it. And it's really good. Plus, there's like 60 pages of previously uncollected stuff, including the Smokey the Bear Sutra and all the stuff, all of what was Left Out in the Rain. All of that is in there. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. Thank you. Oh, there's Janine Boggs. There's Jamie Turner. See, I don't spot these people, these late arrivals. Jamie, Janine, Rochelle, Hayden, Patsy, Bill Willem, Diane Schulstad. Yeah, I see her quite a bit. Linda Rosales. Hey, Linda. Bridget. Thanks, you guys. Excuse me. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for letting me read poetry to you. It's tons of fun. I enjoy it. So we'll do this again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. How many people had trouble getting in tonight? Anybody? I might be on a different computer. I may look totally different. I might get some face work done. Probably not, but maybe I'll get some mind work done. That's probably a little more of an emergency. Anyway, hope everybody has a poetic week. Take care of each other, please. I'll see you Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time.